Good morning. This is the meditation of the School of Christian Mysticism on the 22nd of May. These meditations follow on from our morning prayer, which takes place every morning and which everybody is welcome to join. In the morning, I usually get up early, and after I've taken my wife a cup of tea and coffee, I'll have breakfast quietly and read some text, which at the moment is the writings of a medieval English mystic called Walter Hilton. And this morning I read something that I thought was directly relevant to this meditation following on from morning prayer. Here's what he said. The fire of love shall always be alight in the soul of the devout and pure man or woman, for the soul is the altar of God. And every morning the priest shall lay on sticks and feed the fire. In other words, a man or woman shall feed the fire of love in his heart with holy psalms, pure thoughts, and fervent desires, so that it shall never be extinguished. Each morning in morning prayer we're given readings from the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, a psalm, and a wonderful liturgy from Tim. And that provides plenty of kindling to bring our spark of love for God back to life in the morning. And this morning we had readings, and I'll just pick out one phrase from the Hebrew Bible reading, which was from Deuteronomy, not always a great source of spiritual kindling, but on this occasion we read, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." These are the words of Moses to his people before they crossed the Jordan. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. A reminder, if we need it, that God is necessarily always with us. God can't not be with us. God is the source of everything. If the source was absent even for a microsecond, then everything would no longer exist. Creation is now, the word is now. We've been hearing a lot recently from some poems in a book called Darkness and Light, which are based on the works of Meister Eckhart. I'm going to read one of those now. So you think that God should be shining forth in your religious devotions and acts? Perhaps, But think again. If you're in the right frame of mind, you'll find that God is radiant in everything, above all in what is dark or seems far from God. Everything is always in God. I'd even say that everything is God. Coming to know this takes practice, and you will never finish learning what this means in your life, because this is your life. You will never finish learning what this means in your life, because this is your life. God is your very life. Coming to know this, he says, takes practice, and the practice that we follow is contemplative prayer. Contemplative prayer brings us to an awareness of the presence of God, which can then stay with us, or at least come to us at other times of the day. And all we need to do is to put ourselves silently in the presence of God. God is always there. It's us who are often absent. God is never absent. God cannot be absent. Some words from a 16th century Spanish Jesuit called Alvarez de Paz is what he says. Those who give themselves to the practice of contemplative prayer do not aggrieve God, do not upset God, even when they do nothing but put themselves in his presence and await his action. Even when they prepare no material on which to meditate, or by which to inflame their souls to kindle the spark. And even when they do in his presence just the first thing that occurs to them, they do not aggrieve him at all, for it is already a great good to preserve a simple and humble sense of God's presence, and he often crowns such a state with his love or with some other devout affection. I'll read that again. Those who give themselves to the practice of contemplative prayer do not aggrieve God even when they do nothing but put themselves in his presence and await his action. Even when they prepare no material on which to meditate and or by which to inflame their souls. And even when they do in his presence the first thing that occurs to them, they do not aggrieve him at all, For it is already a great good to preserve a simple and humble sense of God's presence, and he often crowns such a state with his love or with some other devout affection. All we need to do is put ourselves simply and humbly in the presence of God. That means ridding ourselves of all our preoccupations, all our ego, because inside every one of us there is a place which is the temple of God with the altar of God. And this place is always there. Never changes, never goes away, totally reliable, totally peaceful, totally quiet. But so often we clutter this temple with our own thoughts and preoccupations. Instead of being a temple that God can enter, it becomes so cluttered with our own ego belongings that God can't get in. And we need to clear it out, declutter the inner temple by letting go of our thoughts and preoccupations as they come into our minds. We can just let go and remember the true source of everything, God, the true source, God who we can meet in the inner temple, where we are not tied by the things of this world, by our ego selves. We can let those just drift away. We can do that. We can help to do that by just focusing on our breathing. Breathing in from the wellspring, from the source. Breathing out all of our own clutter and garbage. Breathing in life. Breathing in truth. Breathing out clutter, the garbage, the accumulated dust and rubbish. Breathing in purity, breathing out rubbish. With each breath, we're clearing away the clutter from our inner temple, rendering it a holy place where God can enter and do his work within us. All we can do is to prepare ourselves. After that, the work is done within us by God through the Holy Spirit. And we can't understand it, but we know it's happening. Breathing in and breathing out our garbage and clutter. Breathing in truth and purity. Breathing out the wretchedness of this world. Turning our face to God. In the inner temple, the altar of our soul, where the fire always burns. You will never finish learning what this means in your life, because this is your life. As we emerge from the inner temple, we know that we're fired up by God's love working mysteriously within us. And as we turn to the tasks of this world today, we know that everything we do is done in the presence of God, because it cannot be otherwise. This concludes the meditation for today.